supports the diaphragm, and that's really not edible in any fashion whatsoever. It's when you braise it or when you sear it, it just doesn't break down. What it actually does, it just kind of loosens up, but it's not edible in any way. So I really like to make sure that the fell is always taken off. If you ever get a piece of meat that maybe it's braised, but it has like this kind of chewy, sinewy flavor to it or texture, that's what you're looking at right there, is fell. And you can see that throughout the whole animal between muscle lines. Also, there's random glands that you'll see that I'm going to take off. Those, when you cook those, these have all kinds of, basically, all kinds of fluids that the animal uses and secretes throughout its life to help it maintain what it needs, the nutrition. Just kind of like we have our thyroid glands and everything. The animals have the same thing, and eating those glands, it's no bueno. No, it really will make something murky. It'll make it musty. It's just like I said, for me, when I harvest the whole animal, I really want to, appreciate the integrity of it, and I want to make sure that everything that I do with it is really just as clean as possible, so I can taste what the farmer did. Whether the feed that they had, whether it's acorn. We were talking earlier about the Iberico ham that they they feed on acorns, wild, and you can really taste that in the meat itself. Any animal, whether it's table scraps, bananas, corn fed, whatever it is, you can taste the difference if it has that diet 100% of the time. A lot of farmers, you'll see that they'll change the diet based on what they're trying to get. If they're trying to get marbling, or if they're trying to have something that's lean, you can change the diet of the animal to get what the end result is going to end up being. So I'm actually going to harvest the tenderloin out first. And this guy here, and pork tenderloin, it's always very small. They, on a 300-pound pig, they still don't even get much more than a pound and a half to 2 pounds. They're small. This guy here is going to be even smaller because this guy is not very big at all. On cows and even veal, lamb, everything, all the anatomy is 100% the same. But you'll see obviously the size difference in the muscles. What I like to do is I just like to trace, because that allows me to make sure that I'm actually getting the entire muscle and I'm not overcutting. And the thing about breaking down a whole animal, when you go to the market and you buy, just a top loin or a loin, you don't see any of the other muscles. It's just that muscle. The animal has all these muscles compiled, and you can actually seam them out with your fingers. About 80% of the animal, once you make an initial cut, you can actually seam out each muscle. You'll have a little bit of vein or maybe some kind of sinew or something in your way, but you can really seam out most of the animal itself. I'm going to pass this off to Alex here.
Can I ask a question?
Absolutely, please.
Maybe a bit of a dumb question.
Not at all.
Where was the head?
The head? This guy right here.
Okay.
And I'm sorry, I should talk about that, because I picked this pig up yesterday. I picked him up whole. His breastbone, his breastplate right here was still intact, and the belly was just slightly slit, just so the innards could come out. I received it yesterday with just the kidneys. So what I did to take the head off, it's actually a lot more simple than you would think. A lot of people want to try to use a saw or something. You can actually just use your knife and you trace all the way around the neck, like this. You trace all the way around the neck, as so, and then you actually just take it and you push it forward. You can bring it back to the table, and then there's a little tendon in between the vertebrae. You just pop that. It'll make it sound very easy. Yeah, really, honestly, the animal, it's a map. It's really a map. Everything that you want to find, if you know what you're looking for, you can see it in a picture and you can find it, as long as you don't just cut too deep. But really, you just trace it, you just fold it forward, and the tendon will actually expose itself, and then you pull it straight back. I'd like to do it towards the end of the table, and then you can just twist, and the head will come right off. There's no need for any large piece of equipment, bandsaw or anything. I split the hog myself yesterday with just a handsaw that you see under the table right now. A lot of people here, do you guys eat the whole animal? I mean, is everyone into trotters, brains, tongue, ears, and what have you?
Yeah.
Good. I hope so. Because you just ate a bunch of
Hey,
Go ahead
any
and
other
remove the
pictures?
trotters.
I'm taking video right now.
That's the same thing as the head. You probably can't see it on the camera, but what I'm doing is I actually just separated the heel there. And I'm just going to pop it. You can hear that?
Yeah.
And then I just go right there and separate the tendon. And then here's a trotter. And the trotter is different from the hop. The trotter itself is actually the foot. You'll see a lot of chefs, they'll call it, they maybe like a stuffed trotter. See, I just exposed it. And I mean, yes, obviously I'm experienced, so I know where the ankle is, and I know how to find that tendon. But you can actually just sit there and fold it and bend it, and you'll find it. And just using a little bit of your knife, not going all the way, just tracing it, it'll open itself up, just like that. You see that? There's the camera. I'm not used to a camera. You can see that. You just bring it to the edge. And it just comes right up. One of my favorite parts is the trotter. Has anyone ever cooked trotters? What's that? Yeah. I personally like to braise them myself, but keep it intact. A really cool method is actually you take like a fork or a knife, whatever you have, even a metal skewer, and you actually brace the trotter itself so it keeps it in line. Otherwise, they'll bend, and then all the skin will pop. So if you brace it with something, you can truss it with like I said, like a fork or even a skewer or whatever, and you braise it really, really low and slow, and then let it rest, and then you can slit it open and unwrap the entire skin, and then you can stuff it with whatever you want, and then deep fry it. That's
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I'm actually, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to separate the front leg. The foreleg is not connected by a bone whatsoever. It's strictly just a muscle. I don't know if you can see. I'm going to go ahead and just make an incision, and that's going to start to separate. I know you guys are probably thinking, I'm not using gloves. I'll be honest, I'm not scared of pork. I do use gloves with chicken, but I also know where this pig came from, and I know that the farmer's clean, and I know that it's been handled properly. A lot of people are also really scared to eat pork, medium rare. Don't be scared. If you know where your food comes from, and you know it's healthy, you know it's clean, then just go with it. I mean, go with what you like. I used to get this pig back in Vermont, and unbelievable. I wouldn't eat it past medium rare, and it tasted like bananas. It was the weirdest pork I've ever had. It was unbelievable because the farmer used to feed it bananas every day. Not the farmer, but his daughter would go out and feed the pigs bananas every single day. See, you can see. I'm starting to separate there.
So there's no bone connecting that?
No bone. Nope.
How does it have stability?
Just from the muscle. The muscle, it's connective tissue with the muscle. There is a bone that's in here's the shoulder blade. So